So, I didn't plan it this way, but, by the way, do you like the new backdrop? I got a black and white one as well as a blue one and a green one, so I thought I would try it out. It's a little bright. It's like I'm broadcasting live from subspace or the Q continuum or something. But yeah, so anyway, it's Friday the 13th. Yes, as Larry says in the chat, I've been raptured. It's Friday the 13th, and this is the 13th episode of Ask Away. So good thing none of us are superstitious. Huh? Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Those of you who are here live in the chat, I see you. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Derwonder Barbar, for dropping in a super chat already. I appreciate that. Before I get started, I just want to say that I have a few disclaimers I guess I want to make, because it seems like every time I do a live stream after I'm done, there are always one or two people in the chat who really wanted me to answer a question, and I just didn't get to it for some reason. I didn't see it, or I didn't have time to answer it. So if you ask a question in the live chat and I don't get to it, it's nothing personal. Please don't think that I don't like you or that I thought your question was bad or whatever. It's just when the chat gets going and it starts scrolling pretty fast, I don't always see every single question. And when I'm answering a question, I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm looking at the camera to address the audience. I'm not looking over here at the chat. So if I missed your question, I apologize. It's nothing personal. Also, as I mentioned a minute ago, a Derwonder Barbar in the chat already donated a super chat, which is fantastic. I thank you so much for that. Super chats are very much appreciated, but of course not expected. If you feel like tossing a couple bucks in the tip jar, that's wonderful and appreciated, but I don't expect that. You don't have to do that. Now, if you have questions in the live chat right now, please hold on to them for a few minutes, because my custom is to answer questions from Patreon patrons first that were pre-submitted a couple of days ago. So I'm going to answer some patron questions first, and then I'll take a break from answering the pre-submitted questions, and I'll hang out with you guys in the chat, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about for a little bit. So first, let me go through some questions from Patreon patrons that were submitted a couple of days ago. So the first question is from Tom McDonald, who I saw a few minutes ago in the chat. Hi, Tom. Thanks for being here as always. Tom says, I've seen a road atlas. There seem to be many roads. How many of them must a man walk down before you can call him a man? How many roads if he is a trans man? What a great question. Obviously, not being a trans person myself, I probably am not very well equipped to answer the last part. Although I bet if you ask most trans people, they would tell you that their roads seem a lot longer than the roads we cis people have to walk. And it's probably not, it's not no probably about it. It's not fair. The roads should be the same length, regardless of what your gender identity is and whether you're trans or cis or whatever. It's just not fair. But the answer, as the answer to all numerical questions, the answer is 42. Once a man has walked down 42 roads, then you can call him a man. And I believe Mr. Dillon would back me up on this. I don't think he chose to leave it ambiguous in the lyrics to his timeless song. But I'm pretty sure once you've walked down 42 roads, I think that was actually the point of the song. A lot of people interpret the song as like he's asking, he's sort of demanding an answer, like, how many roads must a man walk down before you can call him a man? I don't think that was it. I think he was leaning towards a definite answer, and that answer was 42. Once you've walked down 42 roads, then you can call someone a man. If they want to be called a man, if a man's what they are. I presume if they are a woman and they walk down 42 roads, then that officially makes them a woman as well. I could be off on this. I'm not sure if all of this is necessarily medically or scientifically accurate, but I think I'm on solid ground here. At least that's what I'm going to go with. Next question is from Jay Miller. Jay says, I loved the new video with St. Peter as Heaven's Doorman. Are there going to be more of those? Animation takes a while, so it could be an every once in a while thing, but that was a fun video. Well, thanks a lot, and thank you for calling what I did animation. It was still images moving back and forth across the screen. I suppose it was animation of a sort, but it was very, very simplistic animation. That scene of Jesus and Peter at the pearly gates would be what I would call an illustrated conversation. If we wanted to be like really, really super charitable, you might call it some kind of like a motion comic. certainly isn't full animation, and I certainly don't have the skills or the technology at my fingertips to be able to produce animation, proper animation. But yeah, thank you so much. I liked that video too. I was really, really happy with how that turned out, and I would like to do more of them. I don't have any specific ideas for how to do more of them, or for, you know, for what the story would be or what the subject would be. But yeah, that idea came to me one night, I think, as I was falling asleep. And I actually emailed myself. I had my Kindle within arm's reach, and I emailed myself the idea so I wouldn't forget it. And then a couple weeks later, I finally got around to writing it and doing it. And it turned out really well. I'm glad that you liked it, and that other people seemed to think it was good too. And yeah, I would love to do more like that, but I don't know exactly what they would be about. But if I could find any excuse to do the continuing adventures of Jesus and Peter outside the pearly gates, or something similar to that, I would love to do it, because I think it turned out really well, and I'm glad that other people thought so as well. Dave Edwards, as in stories like The Handmaid's Tale, whenever there's a major disaster, e.g. for infertility, people turn to religious extremism and use its tenets to persecute those not following the way, with the certainty of further global warming catastrophes. What do you think is the possibility of religious persecution of the non-believers in this country? You know, it sounds far-fetched, and I would not want to say that we should consider this like a likely possibility or something that's going to happen anytime soon. But then again, we would be foolish to just assume that it could never happen. I mean, if religious fundamentalists or people sympathetic to the aims of religious fundamentalists continue to accumulate and solidify political power in this country, and we begin to see more and more of the negative effects of climate change, as we surely will in the coming years and decades, it's certainly not out of the question. I mean, I would not advise us to think that the sky is about to fall as far as that's concerned. I don't think we're close to that, but we would be foolish to assume that it just couldn't happen. You know, to say, oh, come on, like religious people would ever persecute non-believers because of the weather or because of climate change, or say, it could happen. There are people in this country who very, very sincerely believe that America's sinful circumstance, our sinful behavior, abortion, permissive attitudes toward gay people and trans people, etc., are the reason that there are natural disasters, are the reason that there is violence, are the reason for all of the terrible things that happen in this country on a regular basis, at least the stuff that afflicts white people or people that go to their churches. So, I mean, it's not out of the question. You know, I would imagine that things would have to get a lot worse in that way than they are now, and that people like that would have to accumulate more political power than they have and become even more open and bold about exercising it and about allowing their religious beliefs to guide their wielding of that power. But it's not out of the question. You know, it's something that we should be aware of being in the realm of possibility. I don't think we need to start preparing for it right now necessarily, or treat it like an inevitability. But, you know, I learned my lesson in 2016. I was one of the people who was saying, yeah, come on, Trump's not going to get elected. And here we are. And there were people, not me, but there were people after he got elected who were insisting, oh yeah, but come on, he's not even going to try to do half the stuff he said he was going to do. And here we are. So it's important to acknowledge that such things could happen, and we would not want to be caught completely unawares if something like that were to happen. If religious organizations or religious factions in the country did begin to try to turn their wrath on non-believers or on people that they regard as sinful for some other reason and blame them for catastrophes that are happening. Next up, from Some Random Geek, who I know is in the chat. Hello, Some Random Geek. Question is, criticism I have heard of socialism, anarcho-syndicalism, or anarcho-communism from capitalists and Lauren is, there's always someone who wants to be the big cheese. What do people base that on? People want to and can be the big cheese and be rewarded for being the big cheese under our current system of neoliberal late state capitalism. But of course, it is much, much easier if you already have capital to make more capital. And if you don't have capital, like if you are a worker, like 99% of everyone, it is really difficult to get or create capital, and more difficult if you are not a cishet white guy. But how possible or likely is it for someone to be the big cheese under socialism or anarcho-communism? How well can someone be rewarded under socialism or anarcho-communism? Well, as we have established previously many, many times, I am not necessarily an expert on those philosophies, those ideologies, so I probably would not be the best person to answer that question. But I have watched a lot of Star Trek, and I do know that in Star Trek First Contact, when Captain Picard is trying to explain the economics of the future to Lily Sloan, who is from the 21st century and doesn't understand how the whole no money in the future thing works, Captain Picard said, well, the economics of the future work differently. We no longer seek material gain or monetary gain. We seek to better ourselves. And that's total pie in the sky hippie horseshit, but it would be nice if we could get to that point, wouldn't it? If we could get to a point where we no longer value monetary gain, we no longer value being of a high economic class. We can seek fulfillment and perhaps even seek a different form of prestige in other ways. And if we remove the crushing immediate need to have money in order to live that is imposed on people in many ways by our current system, maybe that would happen to a degree. It probably wouldn't happen to the extent that it happens in Star Trek The Next Generation, where no one on Earth seems to care about money at all. But it would probably happen to a degree if people didn't have to worry about having enough money in order to survive. If there was a different system in place that allowed people to breathe and to grow and to live without having to scramble for their basic needs, then some of that motivation of wanting to be the big cheese, at least in terms of how much money you have, would ease up a little. So maybe something like that. Under a different system, you would find a different brass ring to strive for. It wouldn't necessarily be wealth. It would be something else. But as you can probably tell, I am just pulling things out of the air here. It's a nice idea. I don't know if that would ever happen. I don't know if there's any realistic way to get there from where we are now. But yeah, something like that, under a system where accumulation of capital was no longer as necessary or as urgent to your survival as it is today. Maybe accumulation of capital would not be the only way to think of yourself as the big cheese. Here's one from John Brockman. John says, I'm super tired and bored sitting here waiting for my car's AC to get fixed and playing Monster Prom. The live stream is tomorrow night, but I expect you can retroactively entertain me and keep me awake through the time stream thanks to the theory of the Mobius, a twist in the fabric of space where time becomes a loop. When you reach that point, whatever happened will happen again. Oh, here's a question. ACAB? ACAB? Why? ACAB, I presume what John means by that is all cops are bastards, for those of you who don't know that. And as a general rule, my answer to that would be why, would be yes. There are exceptions, of course, lest I insult any good cops that may hear about this. But good cops are probably the exceptions to the rule. Or, if not that, at least it could be fairly said that the good cops are not the ones who are setting the rules. How about that? Maybe that's a little more fair. There may be quite a few good cops out there who are trying to do a good job, but the good cops are clearly not the ones setting the rules. So yeah, as a general rule, ACAB, why? Yeah. And is it interesting, maybe it's not interesting, but it's interesting to me that as soon as I read John's question and he mentioned the Mobius, the first thought I had was from Star Trek The Next Generation in Season 2. I think it's Time Squared, where there are two Captain Picards. One comes in from the shuttlecraft, and they have a meeting about it to figure out what the hell's going on, and Worf is the one who brings up the Mobius. And maybe Worf just has hidden depths, and we just never realize that he's interested in, you know, temporal mechanics and philosophy and things like that. But it kind of feels like they just randomly assigned a line to Worf when they were writing that scene, doesn't it? They were like, ah, shit, Worf's here. Worf hasn't said anything yet. Have him say the Mobius thing. You sure, Worf? Yeah, fuck it. Have him say the Mobius thing. Okay. I hope I entertained you just now, John. And here's another one from some random geek, and then this is the last patron question, and I'll come back to you guys in the chat. So, one last patron question from some random geek. Steve, I saw this on Twitter and had to share this with you. Here it goes. Movie friends, what are your favorite underseen movies to share with friends? Right now, my answers are The Live Cutie Honey, Unico and the Island of Magic, all the Satoshi Kon films, Perfect Blue, Millennium Actress, Tokyo Godfathers and Paprika, Top Secret, Kentucky Fried Movie, Pat Labor 2 or Pat Labor 2, the movie, Metropolis, both 1927 and 2001, The Tales of Princess Kaguya, directed by Isao Takahata, the director of Grave of the Fireflies, Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, and finally, Real Genius. Now, I know you do a podcast with Jason Harding all about movies, and you both recommend underseen movies all the time, but off the top of your head, what are your favorite underseen movies to share with friends? That's a great question. Well, see, a lot of the movies, if I want to share a movie with friends, very often the movie I choose to share with friends will be a bad movie, like a movie that would be like Mystery Science Theater fodder, like so bad it's good. I love recommending those to people who have the same appreciation of that kind of a movie that I have. And one that I always recommend to people, specifically for one scene, is a movie, a really, really like super low budget horror movie from probably 10 or 15 years ago now called Hip Hop Locos. And there's a scene in Hip Hop Locos where a character is in the front seat of a car and a character comes up behind him from the back seat and grabs him and chokes him like Luca Brasi in The Godfather, right? Or no, they do Carlo that way too, don't they? Yeah, the Carlo is in the front seat, and then they choke him out. Someone does that in Hip Hop Locos, but the scene for some reason is shot and edited to take like 10 minutes. Like, it's just a dude choking another dude to death for like an endless amount of time, and there's another guy in the driver's seat egging him on and encouraging him, yelling, choke that motherfucker, like over and over again. And it's transcendently bad. It's so fucking terrible and so funny that you just have to watch it. So I always recommend Hip Hop Locos to people if you want to see like a really, really fucking terrible movie that few people have not seen. If I want to recommend a good movie, depending on who I'm talking to, one of the movies I might recommend would be Grave of the Fireflies. A lot of people who are into animated films and into anime have seen it. It's like a legendary film in certain circles, but a lot of people outside of that realm have not seen it. And to me, it's one of the most beautiful, brilliant films ever made, animated or not. And of course, it's absolutely heartbreaking. It's one of the saddest, most wrenching movies you'll ever see. So you have to be in the right mood for it. You have to be ready to see something really heavy and really beautiful, but also really sad. But yeah, Grave of the Fireflies is one that I would recommend. Also, speaking of Japanese animation, Wings of Onyamas is another one of my favorite movies. From I guess the late 80s is when it came out. It's about the early days of a space program, like a society sending its first people into space, and it's a really, really terrific movie. So I would recommend that as well, Wings of Onyamas. Okay, so that is it for the pre-submitted patron questions. Let me see what's going on in the chat over here. How is everybody? Yeah, Larry says, the first message I see, Grave of the Fireflies, why do you like hurting people, Steve? You know, Jason says the same thing when we talk about movies on late seating, or when we're talking to get ready for late seating. Because I do tend to favor like I mean, sometimes depressing, sometimes dark movies, and you know, he's like, why do you hate people, Steve? Hey, by the way, another super chat from Drew Barbar. Thank you. Is the captain's log bigger than an ensign's log? I've seen some pretty big ensign's logs, so I would tend to doubt it. Oh, okay. I'll go up a little bit. Hi, Leto. Hi. And Let me see. Oh, here, from Green Herring. Hey, Steve, are there any right-wing shitlord anti-PC channels that you respect even a little bit? No. That's an easy question. That's an easy question. No, there aren't. There aren't any that I would describe in those terms that I respect even a little bit. No. There are people who say things that I disagree with, including people who say things that I disagree with a little bit politically, that I would still say I have respect for. Not really on YouTube. I don't really watch anybody like that on YouTube, but people that I read or people that I see in other media. But no, there are no shitlord YouTube channels that I respect even a little bit. Okay, here's another one from Aid Trance. What would you like to see in a future Star Trek series? Or in the future of the Trek franchise in general? I would eventually like to see them, series, movies, whatever, set after Voyager and after Star Trek Nemesis. Because since then, it's either been the alternate timeline, the Kelvin timeline, or Discovery, which is Prime timeline, but set back before Captain Kirk. And there's nothing wrong with that if the story is good. And I've said many times in public that I like Discovery and I like the Kelvin timeline movies. But it would be nice to pick back up in the Prime universe and see what's been going on, since the end of the last, the most recent Prime storyline, which I believe is Nemesis. Yeah, I would like to see something like that. As far as story and characters and whatever, I don't know, but it would be nice to revisit the Prime universe and pick things up where they left off or a little bit after that. Hi, Radical Bacon. Medical Athlete Sports Services. Is there any truth to the television reboot of Star Trek with the Picard character being cast? If so, any idea of the premise for the series? No, I have no idea about any of that. I'm just a fan. I don't know any inside info that hasn't been reported elsewhere. I do know that as far as I know, it's still unconfirmed, but it's rumored that there will be a new Star Trek TV series, and that Patrick Stewart has been attached to it, or he's been approached about it, and he's open to it, and that would be him as Picard. But I don't know what that would be. I don't know if it would be a reboot. I don't know if it would be picking up sometime after Nemesis, or what I don't know what it would be. But yeah, there's I think is it Damon Lindelof's production company that just signed a new deal with CBS to produce new Star Trek stuff, whether it's movies or TV shows or limited series or whatever. So there's definitely new Star Trek stuff in the pipeline, and that's really exciting. And Patrick Stewart may possibly be involved in one of those as Picard, and that's really awesome. That's really exciting. But as far as what it is or when it will be out or what the premise will be or who else will be in it, I have no idea. But yes, the possibility is very exciting. Dr. Babylon, do you ever toy with trolls for fun? No, not really. Not really. I will sometimes respond to them if it's like a good joke, if I have a good line, but I never get into it, or I almost never get into it like a back and forth with people. Star Trek or Andromeda. I don't think I ever watched Andromeda, so I would have to say Star Trek by default. Radical Bacon, universal basic income. I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of it in general. There are different ideas of how to, go about it, but in general, I'm very much in favor of it. Leto Anor, what the ever-loving fuck is that white background? Do you want to turn us all blind? It's not that bright, is it? As Larry said at the beginning, I've been raptured. I'm broadcasting live from the afterlife. So, so if there's any trouble with the stream, if there's any quality issues, it's because I'm webcasting from the afterlife. Thank you for the super chat, Some Random Geeks. And Some Random Geek says with his super chat, everyone should see a silent voice. Everyone watch a silent voice. Watch on YouTube. Okay, good. Yeah, and Grave of the Fireflies. Thanks again, Dervonder Barbar. Grave of the Fireflies it's absolutely devastating. If anybody watching it is thinking about going in and checking it out, if you've never seen Grave of the Fireflies, I cannot recommend it highly enough, but it is absolutely emotionally devastating. So be ready for it. It's like heartbreaking. It's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful, artful, wonderful movies I've ever seen, but it will wreck you. It will absolutely wreck you. Larry Yellingman, you remember that episode of Voyager where people's imaginations became real? If that were more realistic, how much of it would only be able to be shown on HBO? Well, yeah, I mean, that's, you know, it's, when I was writing that episode of Trek, actually, I did recently about Barclay, that was something that I kind of was thinking about and talking about with people, is that, you know, one of the things I mentioned in the video that I think was a nice part of Barclay's character is that his fantasies, even like his sort of implicitly sexual fantasies that we see in that episode, are all very nice and very quaint and very sweet. You know, he takes a nap on Dr. Crusher's lap while she's dressed in like this 19th century dress, you know, or Counselor Troy is the goddess of empathy, and he kisses her, but she doesn't promise sex. She promises acceptance and love and peace, and, you know, and I wonder if there were no standards and practices, and if the writers could have written anything they wanted, no matter how risque, as Reg's holodeck fantasies, if they would have been quite so sweet and nice and quaint, or if they would have kept it anyway because it's an interesting and charming part of his character. I don't know. Green Herring, if the Marvel Cinematic Universe had to cross over with one franchise, what would it be? Well, you know, I would love to see Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Trek, because I just love completely random, absolutely meaningless crossovers like that. There's really no reason why the MCU and Star Trek should cross over, but if they did, I would see the hell out of the movie. It's probably more realistic to do Star Wars because they're both under the same corporate umbrella, and honestly, get ready for that, because as soon as the well starts to run dry on the MCU and the new Star Wars movies, because look, they're pumping out these new Star Wars movies at a pretty good clip now. They're going like a movie a year, right? And they're pumping out Marvel movies even quicker, like 2 a year or more. And they've been doing that for a while, and they're doing pretty good, right? They're still making good movies. They're still making a lot of money. They're reaching their peak with the Infinity War saga, right? That's probably going to be the peak, both creatively and commercially. And then it's going to start going down, right? And that's going to happen with Star Wars eventually too, probably after the next episode hits theaters. It'll probably be a huge hit, and if it's true to form, it'll also be a good movie, because the first two sequels have been good movies. I've liked The Force Awakens, and I really liked The Last Jedi, so the next one will probably be pretty good too. And but then eventually people are going to burn out. People are going to not make such good movies anymore. They're going to overexpose. They're going to forget what got them there in the first place. They're going to start pumping out mediocre movies, and interest is going to wane. And I promise you, if that happens, you will see Star Wars and Avengers crossover movies. I would not write that off as impossible at all. I would be surprised, honestly, if I never lived to see it, given the fact that shared universes and crossovers are becoming more and more common in movies, and given the fact that the Avengers and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars are now both under the Disney umbrella, I would be very surprised if something like that never happened, especially if the box office grosses start going down on the individual franchises. Because look, that's why Universal did the monster mashup movies in the first place. That's why they did Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which kicked off the whole Universal Monster Party movies that revived that franchise for a little while in the 40s after it had taken a downturn. They had done Frankenstein and the Wolfman and Invisible Man and Dracula, and they had gone through all of the individual characters, and they were running on fumes creatively and financially. Movies weren't as big of a hit, as big hits as they used to be, so they said, fuck it, let's put two of them in the same movie. They did Frankenstein and the Wolfman, and nobody had ever seen that before. Holy shit, they exist in the same universe. And that was a revelation. And then they said, well, hell, let's do one where like all of them are in it. And they did House of Frankenstein. And then that worked, so they did House of Dracula. And, it happened because nobody was seeing the movies anymore. And they said, we got to do something to get people back in the theater. Same thing's going to happen with Marvel and with Star Wars at some point. And I would not be surprised if they do the same thing. Yeah, Larry. Well, yeah, you're right. It was an episode of Deep Space Nine. It was If Wishes Were Horses, I think, wasn't it? Featuring guest appearances by Rumpelstiltskin and also Clyde. Was it Clyde Kusatsu? Was it Clyde Kusatsu as Buck Bukai? Or no, he was the Admiral. It was oh fuck, I'm gonna have to look that up now. It's gonna drive me crazy. But yeah, it was a Deep Space Nine episode. Irk the Unknown. This is a good question. Hey, Steve, I have been watching some of your 5 Stupid Things vids. I listen to Coast for entertainment. Do you find the subjects entertaining, or does it just piss you off? No, I haven't listened to it for a long time, but I used to listen to Coast AM for fun a lot. I mean, where I live, the live broadcast of it comes on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So you have to be having a late night anyway. But if I ever was up and having trouble sleeping or something, and I could, there's a radio station just within range of where I live that you could just barely tune it in. So it's very sort of staticky and faint, but you can just barely listen to Coast AM. And I used to listen to it all the time, and I thought it was a hoot. It's complete horseshit, but I had a great. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's very entertaining. Paul Fisher, what is your single most favorite episode of Trek ever? That would be The Visitor on Deep Space Nine. And I don't even know what second place would be. Like, it's that far ahead. Like, The Visitor to me is the best episode of Star Trek that any show ever did ever. I'd have to give it some thought as to what number 2 would be, because The Visitor is my top pick easily. Star Trekker, shout out to my channel. Okay. I've never watched your channel. Is it good? If everybody check out Star Trekker's channel, see if it's good. I can't speak to it because I've never seen it, so I can't officially endorse it. But go check it out. If I imagine it has something to do with Star Trek. Dr. Babylon, this is an interesting one. You and I don't believe in life after death. Does it ever bother you that if you're right, you're never going to find out and your position is impossible to validate? You know, now that I think about it, yeah. It is kind of a pickle, isn't it? It's kind of a philosophical pickle. Like, I guess I'll never know. Because if I die and that's it, as I suspect, I won't know. I won't find out because I won't be there. So I guess the only satisfying conclusion to that would be to die and discover that I was wrong. And then I could be in the afterlife and go, oh shit, I was wrong. Huh, well, at least now I know. That would be that's weirdly enough, that's the ideal outcome, isn't it? Oh wow. Some random geek says Grave of the Fireflies is in theaters again in August through G-Kids and Fathom Events Studio Ghibli Fest. Would you go to the theater to see it again? Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely would go see it. I've never seen it in theaters. I've seen it on video a couple times. I've never seen it in theaters. Matt Hawkins, do you have backups of your Rift movies since, or Rift TV, since Rift TV was shut down? No, I don't. Rift TV only saved. Well, yeah, I guess what you're asking, do I have backups of my stuff? And no, I don't. I didn't record them locally. I recorded them when I streamed it the first time on Riff, and so yeah, those are gone, unfortunately. But you know, they were ad-libbed anyway. A lot of those, I did 3 or 4 of them, and then I kind of stopped doing it. Doing it live like that and ad-lib, at least for me personally, I don't think they were that good. Doing a movie riff like that, for me anyway, and my skill set, scripting it is a necessity. Like when I do the riff videos for Steve and Stuffy, where we make fun of weird little short films or whatever, those are all scripted, and I watch those movies 4 or 5 times at least to make it as good and as funny as I possibly can. Yeah, if I were to just sit down and just try to riff a movie, even if it's a movie. For some movies, if it's a movie like The Room that I've seen 100 times anyway, and I make jokes about it every single time, like I might be able to come up with something passable with something like that. But for a movie that I'm not that familiar with and I haven't made fun of that much already, like ad-libbing it is, for me anyway, is a big mistake. So a lot of those Riff TV ones that I did, and I say a lot, I only did a couple of them really. Like I think I only did maybe 4 or 5 altogether. I did a couple Voyagers and a couple episodes of MacGyver, and that was it, I think. Looking back and remembering them, I don't think any of them were very good, so it's not like a big loss. If you want to do a riff on a TV show or a movie, Mystery Science Theater style, you really have to script it, at least for me. Yeah, Star Trek and X-Men crossover in the comics. Yes, and also there was recently, just a couple years ago, there was a Star Trek and Green Lantern in the comics, the IDW Star Trek comics that take place in the Kelvin timeline, and Green Lantern Corps had a crossover. So yeah, those are fun. I think they did. There was a DC Star Trek: The Next Generation crossover at some point too, back in the early '90s. I think when DC got the Star Trek comic license, there was a Star Trek DC Comics like Superman crossover. I think. I don't think I ever read it, but I think that it exists. Larry Yellingman, listener question. Who would you want to see Cisco punch the most in the MCU? Okay, and Radical Bacon adds Cisco punch Trump. Well, yeah, I would love to see Cisco punch Trump. I'd love to see Cisco like materialize out of the realm of the prophets wherever he is and just knock the shit out of Donald Trump and then be like, see ya, and fade back into, you know, that would be great. If Avery Brooks just did that, that would be great. If I woke up one morning and the headline was Avery Brooks punches the shit out of President Trump, I would be like, I don't know where Avery Brooks is, but I have to go find him and shake his hand and give him a hug and buy him whatever drink he's drinking. But who would I want to see Cisco punch in the MCU? Oh, who should Cisco punch in the MCU? Well, I mean, Thanos has it coming. He's kind of a jerk. And Cisco would do it, too. And Cisco wouldn't fuck it up like Star-Lord did. I love Star-Lord, but Star-Lord blew that whole deal. You know, Cisco would make it count. Aid Trance, how did people go to the toilet in Star Trek? There are actually bathrooms. This is how much of a Star Trek nerd I am, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who knows this, but if you look at the technical manuals, which you used to have to buy as books, now you can just look them up online. People have blueprints posted that are officially licensed by Paramount, so they're as close to canon as something like that can get. You can get like floor plans of the sets of the bridge and you know, all the other major settings on the ship. And I don't know about original series, but in Next Generation there is a toilet on the bridge. It is if you are facing the view screen, it would be to the right, and it's up on the upper level. It's opposite the door that takes them into the observation lounge. There's a door like opposite that, and that door supposedly is the door to the bathroom on the bridge. And in a couple episodes, you can see people coming out of it. So I don't know if the directors necessarily knew or meant for that to be the bathroom when they had an extra come out of the door. They maybe just wanted to have some activity in the background. But according to the blueprints, that door is the bathroom. So that crewman coming out was just in the bathroom, and you know, probably feels a lot better now. So let's hope so. Dervunder Barbar, what's the deal with the lack of seatbelts on the Enterprise? Well, they answered that in a deleted scene from Star Trek Nemesis, and it was really, really silly. So it's good that they don't have seatbelts on the Enterprise. I imagine they have, it's the future, and they have, you know, force field technology. So I imagine they have something like, you know, like in Knight Rider, they explained Michael Knight never wearing a seatbelt as well. Kit had a passive restraint system. that was just invisible. It held you in your seat, and you didn't need to put on a seatbelt. So I imagine the Enterprise has something like that. There's like a force field that activates that keeps people in their seats. Although it doesn't always work, because there have been scenes where the ship has been really, really shook by like a torpedo blast or something, and people go flying out of those chairs. So whatever it is, maybe you just have to turn it on. And Picard forgot to hit the button on the arm of his chair. Yeah, and Radical Bacon, they also have inertial dampers. Yeah. Erkley Unknown Steve, are you a fan of Trek Yard's YouTube channel? I've heard of it, but I don't know if I've ever watched it, to be honest. So I can't say I am a fan of it. I don't know if I've ever watched it. Paul Fisher, would you consider doing a Trek ep of your show devoted to The Visitor? Is The Visitor really the best episode of Trek? Imagine the ensuing debate. Yeah, it could be something like that. I mean, yeah, it's my show. I can do whatever I want. I could do is The Visitor actually the best episode of Trek? I could come up with some other angle on it. Yeah, I would love. I want the episodes to have like specific, like a thesis or a question to be explored. So it's not just me just blathering on about Star Trek undirected for 15 minutes. So yeah, if I could come up with what I thought was a decent enough subject about The Visitor to do a video about, I would totally do a video about The Visitor. I'm trying to come up with one for Garrick right now, by the way. If anybody has any suggestions for what would be a good, like, specific Garrick-related topic for a Trek Actually video, hit me up, because I would love to do a Garrick video, because he's an amazing character. But yeah, I would totally do one about The Visitor. Oh, Tesla Ranger, yes, of course. Us Knight Rider fans have to stick together. Am I a fan, 255 ad, am I a fan of SF Debris? Again, I've almost never watched, so I can't say I'm a fan. I probably have caught a video here and there, because it is a really big channel, but I don't remember, and it's not something I watch regularly. People mention that channel a lot in some of the Trek Actually videos I do, so I imagine that we have discussed similar things. Okay, one more from Larry, and then I'll go and answer some questions from comments. So if anybody else has questions in the live chat, just hold on to them again for a few minutes, and then we'll get back to we'll do a lightning round at the end, as usual. So Larry asks, do you have any ways to lessen the torturous pain of editing? I'll tell you what I do. When I'm editing a video, now this probably won't work for editing a podcast because you need your ears, but when I'm editing a video, and I get to a place where I no longer have to listen to the audio, like I've got all of that fixed and where I need it to be, and I'm just going back through the video and just adding like finishing touches that are totally visual, and I don't need the audio, or I don't need to be listening to the audio continuously to get the right cue and all that stuff. I'm just putting in titles or graphics or whatever. I listen to music. I put on my Amazon playlist and I listen to music while I'm doing finishing up the visual bits, and that really, really helps. I actually really look forward to that. That's my favorite part of the editing process, when I get to the point where I don't have to listen to the sound continuously anymore, and I can put on some music and do that. So that's my trick, but that probably wouldn't work with editing podcasts. It's a good way to edit videos for a portion of the process. Okay. So, hold your questions in the live chat for a few more minutes if you really want me to answer them. And let's go back and answer some questions that were submitted. The last time, at the beginning of the show, I answered questions from patrons. These are questions that were left as comments on the last episode of Ask Away. I like to get to some of these too. So, first one of these is from Kelly Carjola, or Carjola. I'm not sure exactly how that's pronounced, but I'll go with Carjola or Carjola. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. I'm trying to find the video where you talk about why you hate Star Trek Voyager so much, but I can't find it. All I found was the Tom Paris is a badass video, Janeway's a bad captain, and there are too many shuttlecraft. I would really like to watch the video where you explain why Voyager is your least favorite show. Well, I just made it last week. A couple people have been asking, like, what's your problem with Voyager? So it's from 2 weeks ago now. But yeah, it's called What's My Problem with Star Trek Voyager, and it lays out my main problems with the show. Some of it is stuff that I had mentioned previously in those videos you mentioned, the Tom Paris video, the Torpedoes video, the Janeway video. So I'm sort of going over territory that I'd covered in other videos, but it's all in one place. So if you want to know my big problems with why I think Star Trek Voyager is the worst Star Trek series, then it's in that video. But I want to stress, as I say in that video, and I'll say it again here, I don't hate Voyager. I know a lot of people love that show, and there are episodes of it that I really like. I don't really hate anything related to Star Trek. Some of it I like a lot more than others. Some of it I think is good. Some of it I think is bad. I think Voyager is mostly bad, but I have a lot of affection for it, and I don't think it's terrible. It feels wrong to me to say that you hate a movie or a TV show, no matter how bad it is, unless there's like something morally bad about it. Like Voyager to me is just a shitty TV show for the most part. It's not bad. It's not morally reprehensible. You don't hate something that just isn't to your taste or that you just don't think is done very well. You know, you hate something like Birth of a Nation, right? Birth of a Nation. Okay, Birth of a Nation is an evil movie. It's white supremacist propaganda. I hate that movie. I hate that movie. I think that's fair to say. Because there's something morally bad about it. Voyager's just kind of a crappy show. Like, I don't hate it. And in many ways, I find it quite fun. Next one of these is from Radical Bacon, who is in the chat. Hello once again, Radical Bacon. If Audie curled up in your hat and fell asleep, would you simply go without it, or would you wake the kitty? Well, I'm smart enough to put the hat up away from where the kitty usually is when I don't have the hat on. If I was just puttering around the house, and I didn't really need to have the hat on for any reason, you know, then I'd probably just let her be. I wouldn't disturb her unless I really needed the hat. I'd go without it. If I was going somewhere or doing a video or something and I felt like I really, really wanted the hat, I mean, I do have others. They're old and I haven't worn them for a while and they're dusty as hell, but I guess I could, you know, put on one of the old ones for a day while the cat was sleeping in the hat. Yeah, but it depends. I try not to move her if I can help it. Next from Corey Donaldson. Hi, Steve. Here's my question for your next Ask Away podcast. What is your opinion of those who climb up very tall structures and hang off the edge without any concern for their lives? You know, it puts me in a very Dr. McCoy frame of mind. Dr. McCoy from Star Trek V, when Kirk is climbing El Capitan and McCoy is down at the bottom looking through the space binoculars, the future binoculars, and he's just kind of quietly losing his shit just to himself, you know. Goddamned irresponsible, playing games with life. If I have an opinion, it's that I hope they're okay. I hope they don't fall. And if they make it to the top, good for them. It's pretty badass to, you know, climb up a building like that. Hope you don't fall and hurt yourself or fall on somebody and kill them. Then that would be pretty bad. But, you know, as long as you know what you're doing, and I mean, I don't give it much thought either way. If they make it, if they're safe, I'm like, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. Good for him. You know, isn't that what we all thought about the raccoon? Tony Blakeway. Wait, what? Americans don't do salt and vinegar on their chips? Heathens. Here's the interesting thing to me, Tony. Some of us do, as I mentioned in the video last time. Some of us do. Occasionally, like me, I occasionally do like vinegar on my French fries. Or chips, as you call them. But it's not super popular. Most people put like ketchup on them here in the States. But we do love our salt and vinegar potato chips, or crisps to you. We love salt and vinegar potato chips, or potato crisps. They're like one of my favorite kinds of potato chip. So I've eaten those. I've eaten salt and vinegar potato chips a lot more than I've eaten salt and vinegar on French fries or chips. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why one caught on in the United States but the other didn't, because they're both potatoes and the flavors are similar. But for some reason we put ketchup on our French fries and we like salt and vinegar in our potato chips. Some of us. Anyway. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Americans, you know, I think we get everything wrong. You know, There's an entire culture that's like, hey, you know, salt and vinegar on French fries is really great. You guys should try it. And we're like, okay, whatever. Oh, but we'll put it on potato chips. Like we screw it up for some reason. We're contrary. We're a contrary people. Next question from Dr. Babylon, who is in the chat. Hi, Dr. Babylon again. Okay, this is a response to last time when Dr. Babylon was describing the fiction that he writes about sort of Fortean subjects like pseudosciences and conspiracy theories and things like that. So I said reptilian overlords was my favorite, and this is his version of that. Okay, so Dr. Babylon says, Steve, in my world, the reptoid cabal isn't all-powerful, but is just one of many villainous factions competing for world domination. Reptilians have a power called blood walking, where if they ingest the blood of another animal, they can perfectly mimic that creature's form. The reptilians didn't interbreed with the ancestors of powerful individuals. Members of the cabal kidnap or kill influential humans, drink their blood, and steal their identities. Well, that probably works a lot better than the interbreeding. You know, why would you want to infiltrate like the 13 bloodlines of the New World Order or the Illuminati when you could just pick out the powerful people and, you know, cash them out and take their place? That works a lot better. That is very cool, actually. That's really interesting, and really it's such a fun world, isn't it? Like that sort of Fortean you know, world of the amazing, incredible, preposterous, where there are aliens and shapeshifters and, you know, you said you don't do the Hollow Earth, but you know, people living in the Hollow Earth and New Age stuff and all that shit. Like there's something that is so interesting about that from a storytelling perspective. When people try to sell it to people as though it's real, I think it's contemptible. But if you look at it as what it is, as fiction, as fantasy, there's something really interesting about all that, and really fun, and kind of, you know, it harkens back to the 19th century, so it has kind of a period piece thing about it as well. At least in a way. But yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Next from Ahoyerno, and Ahoyerno wrote a goddamn book. Ahoyerno says, there's a lot wrong with age of consent laws. In the USA, it's possible to prosecute two 17-year-olds as pedophiles the second one of them celebrates their 18th birthday. In less crazy countries like Belgium, age of consent isn't prosecuted at all, which is a waste of a good idea. On the other hand, all cases involving minors in Belgium have grooming, pimping, incest, or rape as the main charge, you know, actual crimes. In the USA, people lose their virginity at 17 on average, which makes 18 a very weird line to draw, and primarily seems to be a tool for conservative parents to control their daughters. Let's not pretend it's about sons as well. So at 18, you can do whatever. I know a 20-year-old woman who does some very questionable but legal things for her 45-year-old boyfriend who has all the power. I don't think that's good either. I believe she should experiment with an equal. Much easier to say no when he asks her to push boundaries. So should we enshrine the half your age plus 7 rule into law? Do away with age of consent entirely and focus on power dynamics instead? Add close age exemptions? And is statutory rape a good word to describe consensual acts between 16-year-olds? All very good questions. I think out of all of that, my best suggestion is, and you brought it up in the last paragraph there, which is add close in age exceptions to the law. They're sometimes called Romeo and Juliet laws. And a couple of states here in the U.S. have them now. I think Michigan has one. A handful, and it's not widespread, but the idea is there, and it's people who would ordinarily be prosecutable under an age of consent law are not prosecuted or are not required to register as sex offenders if they are within a certain range of age. If they're within 3 or 4 years of age, whether or not one of them is over the age of consent and one of them is under the age of consent, like, it doesn't matter, or it's not as important. Something like that is probably the best way to go, because I do think age of consent laws are important to prevent exploitation. I think that yeah, prosecuting two 16-year-olds is not going to help anybody, but if it's a situation where an older person is potentially taking advantage of a younger person, it's good to have an age of consent law there, so you have a legal basis for taking some action against that, for protecting the rights and the safety of minors. But yeah, it's not always clean cut. It's not always good. It's not always clear where the line should be, you know, but I'm glad that there is a line. And for cases like what you're describing, I think probably the best way to deal with it in the law is having close in age exceptions, and then also relying on prosecutorial discretion. Hopefully police or prosecutors will be able to look at the individual facts in a case and exercise some good sense and some compassion, and be able to judge whether or not they ought to move forward with a criminal case in this particular instance. Now, obviously, that's a pipe dream, because a lot of people in the prosecutorial arena just care about, you know, getting convictions and their record, and they don't care about, you know, whether or not it's fair, whether or not it would help anybody. But hopefully there are enough people with discretion and with compassion and with a sense of righteousness and justice that, you know, if they are brought a case of two teenagers having consensual sex with each other, they're not going to, you know, try to prosecute them and put them in prison for something that is a youthful indiscretion. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to know where the line should be, but I do think there should be a line. Matt Machado. Hi, I'm Henry, aka Stalker Cat. I'm a stray feral cat that likes to follow Matt around whenever he goes walking. When I see him, I run up and rub up against him, and sometimes I wait outside his door. Will you tell him to adopt me, please? Also, can you lend him $300 for the pet fee? I wish I could. If I had $300 spare dollars, I would PayPal it to Matt so he could adopt you, Stalker Cat. Yeah, I mean, my cat Audie was a stray that we adopted. She was very little. She was young when we took her in. But yeah, that's how we got our kitty. She was just a sweet little kitty who we met on the sidewalk, who came up, and she was very happy and very friendly and meowed at us. And she was so little when we brought her in, and she's been with us ever since. So hopefully, Henry the Stalker Cat, you can have something similar if Matt can get together $300. That sucks, by the way. That's fucking awful. That there's an animal that you want to adopt that you could provide a good home for, but you have to pay a fee. Maybe, you know, your landlord charges you extra, or you have to pay like a certain amount to have an extra pet in your apartment, or you have to pay a fee to the county or something to adopt a pet. Whatever the fee is, whoever it's imposed by, that sucks. You have to, you know, you have to drop $300 in order to adopt an animal that you already have a rapport with. That's too bad. I hope you get the $300 somewhere, Matt. I'll talk to Toby Benson. Maybe he can get it to you. I mean, he's not going to give it to you, but maybe he'll give you a way that you can get it, presuming that you don't have too many ethical qualms. I'll talk to him. I'll see what he has to say. Next question from Green Herring, who I also saw in the chat. And this is the last one. Green Herring says, hey Steve, what are your thoughts on YouTube response videos as a genre? Do you think that YouTube should outright ban them? I know that there are right-wing bigots that use response videos to bully and intimidate, but at the same time, there are good people on our side that make response videos, such as H-Bomber Guy, Christy Winters, and Kevin Logan. Thoughts? Yeah, I don't think that getting rid of response videos as a genre is the right way to go. Response videos don't generally interest me in terms of what I do. I don't make response videos, and to be quite honest, I don't watch them all that often, even if they're made by people that I like. I'm just not that interested in it. But there's nothing necessarily wrong with a response video, and it wouldn't be a good way to solve the problem of harassment and abusive people and intolerant people promoting intolerance on YouTube by just saying no more response videos. That's not the way to go. The way to go is to get better at enforcing policies that YouTube has that are already in place, like punishing people who are abusive, punishing people who make content that is meant to incite harassment or that promotes hate speech and intolerance. There are rules that YouTube already has that if they were just a lot better at enforcing them, and they made the punishments stick, you know, they banned channels for good and made it more difficult for people to start new channels after they've been banned for harassment or abuse, then that would fix a lot of the problem right there. No need to single out an entire genre. Better to focus on people who are actually creating content that makes YouTube a really shitty place for a lot of people. Okay, so that's the last pre-submitted question. Now, everybody who is with me live in the chat, if you have questions you want answered, now is the time, because we're going to do the lightning round. And before we can do the lightning round, we have to be introduced. So, if you please.
The lightning round.
There you go.
Rapid fire questions. Glib and adequate answers.
Aha! Okay, so I'm going to start the timer. When the timer begins on the screen, it will be 5 minutes, and we will answer as many questions as we can in 5 minutes. So here we go. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like on the white background, won't it? Yeah, okay, you can see it. That's good. I put a shadow behind it. Okay, lightning round. Okay, 255 Ed, do you like the Stargate franchise? I've seen the first, I saw the movie, and I saw a few episodes of the original TV show, so I haven't watched a lot of Stargate, sad to say, so I can't really say I'm a huge fan of it. Have you watched Legion yet, Leto Enter? No, I haven't, sorry. Keep asking me, though. Keep jumping on me about it. Zero credibility. Steve, what is your opinion on being tolerant to the intolerant? Isn't it kind of a paradox? Yes. It's the paradox of tolerance. And the paradox is, if you are tolerant of the intolerant, then the intolerant will eventually take over, and you will have the result will be, in the end, an intolerant society, or a society dominated by intolerant people. So in order to have a tolerant society, the only thing you cannot tolerate is intolerance. Makes sense to me. Radical Bacon, have you watched ContraPoint's latest video? I swoon for Natalie. Yeah, me too. I love her. I think she's fantastic. I haven't seen the new video yet. It just went up today. I haven't watched it yet, but I will make an effort to watch it today. But yeah, she is a genius and just amazing on every level. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm sure it's great. Boat Reynolds, regarding Me Too, there's a feminist who was accused of sexually abusing men, and other women are defending her simply because she's a feminist. How do you think we should respond to this? I'm not familiar with the case, so I don't know specifically, but generally speaking, if there are credible allegations against someone, whether they are a man or a woman, I think they should be taken seriously, and I think victims should be believed. I don't know what specific case you're talking about, so I can't speak to it, but as a rule, I think victims should be believed until there's a reason to not believe them. You know, that's all I can say without knowing what else. Knowing the specific case. Malevolent Divinity, punching Nazis? Yes, I have no problem with punching Nazis at all. If a Nazi gets punched, I think that's a good thing that happened. Some Random Geek, is The Last Jedi a great movie? Yes. Or at the very least, it is a very, very good movie. Great is kind of I mean, you could. Is it great as in it will live forever in the halls of artistic achievements of cinema? I don't know if it's quite that good. I haven't had enough distance from it yet. But in terms of sit down, watch a movie, movie's over, holy shit, what a great movie. Yes, absolutely. I love The Last Jedi. Dear Wonder Barber, have you usurped Q, Steve? Yeah, that would be another one of my favorite episodes. That's a contender for second place. After The Visitor would be Tapestry. Welcome to the afterlife, Jean-Luc. You're dead. Yeah, so I'm in the Q version of the afterlife, or subspace if you prefer. Carlisle the Cinephile, other than Hamilton, are there any musicals you enjoy? Musical episode of Buffy is okay. Other than, I don't have a lot of, most of the other musicals I've seen or heard have been like Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff from the 60s that we watched in music class and so forth. So I'm not like a huge fan of any other musicals. Hamilton is really it for me, but I haven't necessarily explored the genre that much. Daniel Jones, can you take this dumb knob that has been sent over to the UK? He's been here 24 hours, and I don't know that England is part of the UK, not all the UK. Please take him back. You mean the president? I would love for you all to keep him, to be honest. If y'all could just hold on to him, that'd be great. You'd really be doing us a solid. But yeah, he's coming back soon. Don't worry. He won't be around very much longer in your neck of the woods. He's coming home. Malevolent Divinity, can we be decent men in indecent times? I don't think we can in every single instance. I think there may be times when well, it depends on innate decency, I think, is something you have to hold on to, but decency in terms of like civility or politeness, not necessarily. I think you don't have to be indecent, in decent times, but you do have to take the gloves off. You do have to be willing to brawl a little bit at times, I would say. Joey Jojo, which do you think is more essential to your look, the hat or the beard? I've had the hat for longer, so I will say the hat. Leto Anor, surprise test, define socialism. Socialism is when the means of production is owned by the workers. I think I got that right. Some random geek, have you read Conquest of Bread by Peter Kropotkin? No, I have not. Radical Bacon, is there ethical consumption under capitalism? I think I answered this before. There's more ethical consumption. There's not necessarily ethical consumption. I think there's more and less ethical consumption. Okay, that's time, but there are a few questions left that I will answer before we end. Let me see. Would AI deserve rights in the future? By Aid Trance, would AI deserve rights in the future if it became more advanced? I think if it got to the point where it was indistinguishable from natural intelligence, I think we'd have to seriously consider that. If it's like a Commander Data situation, you know, where it's like they have thoughts and self-awareness, and I mean, what would be the justification for not giving artificially intelligent beings rights? Should Janeway have made a different choice for the sake of her crew? Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely she should have. She should have used the caretaker to get home. Because she just left the Ocampa anyway. The whole reason she stayed was she says, I'm not going to abandon the Ocampa to the Kazon. And then, what does she do? She says, have fun, Ocampa, we're leaving, goodbye. I mean, if you're going to do that, take the caretaker home. Get your crew home. Daniel Jones, have you seen the new Avengers film yet? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw it opening weekend. I thought it was great. Zero credibility. Now, this is, I would love to watch your videos with my kids, but I don't want them to hear so many curse words. Any plans to make a more kid-friendly direction? No. I don't swear as much as I used to, or at least I don't swear as profusely as I used to, but that's just my idiom. That's my personality. That's the voice of my videos, is not necessarily to be crude and vulgar and gross, but to throw in a shit every once in a while, or a goddamn, or Jesus Christ, or, you know, a little bit of salty language. I think that's in my voice. That's just how I express myself, and that's how I express myself in my videos, and how I write when I'm writing in my own voice. So no plans to make kid-friendly content at this time. I know, and I'm sorry that you can't show the video. You feel like you can't show your videos to the kids. That's too bad. I'm glad that you would want to. That's a compliment to me. But no, I don't have any plans to make specifically like more kid-friendly videos. Some of the videos I don't swear in every video. Like, I don't make a point to say, oh, I got to put some fucks and shits in here. It's too clean. You know, most of the Trek Actually videos have just sort of light profanity, if any. But no, I don't have any plans to make specific like kid-friendly videos, so sorry about that. Am I a Step Back History fan? No, I'm not even sure what that is, so no. 255 ad or AD. Larry Yellingman, Gul Dukat, great president or greatest president? He'd be better than Trump, I'm fairly sure. The Valkyrie appears before you with the 3 greatest departed souls in retinue. Who are they? The 3 greatest departed souls, like, ever, of anybody? I have no idea. Kirk, Alin, George Reeves, and Christopher Reeve, because they all played Superman. Let's just go with those. Probably not true, but whatever. Oh, have I seen or enjoyed Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog? Yes, I did. I watched Dr. Horrible a few years ago, and I did. I thought it was good. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of Dr. Horrible. Yeah, I did like Dr. Horrible. Gray Area. What? I'm sorry, I missed your question. If you want to ask it again, if you want to post it in the chat, I'll try to answer it before we wrap up. Sorry about that. 255 AD, do I recognize the ship in your avatar? I can't see it well enough. Let me see. Let me go to your channel and look at the ship in your avatar. See if I recognize it. No. I don't. It looks kind of familiar. It looks Star Trek-y, like it's got nacelles. It looks like a Star Trek ship, but no, I don't recognize it. I don't recognize it. Okay, gray area. Do I have a Discord? No, I don't have a Discord. Sorry. I've never even been on one. I'm like an old man. That's like young, newfangled technology to me. I have not been on a I don't have a Discord, and I've never really participated in a Discord server, so I don't know. Okay, and then we're talking about Henry Cavill. Larry says, funny you should mention Superman actors. Yeah. You know, my friend Jason Jarman had a really good line about that the other day. He said, is Zack Snyder writing his personal life now? Because he said this shit about, I think women should be chased, and I'm afraid to go up to women now because I might be accused of rape. He just said some really shitty things about, you know, the Me Too movement and how difficult it is to get a date today. And I'm sure Henry Cavill has just the worst time getting dates. And I feel so bad for him. But yeah, I tweeted about it. I said, bad Superman, bad shitty sexist Superman. And that's how I feel. He's not necessarily a bad Superman, but he's Superman in really fucking terrible movies. And if that's his attitude toward women and dating, then fuck him. It's a shame he didn't get to play like a proper Superman, because maybe it would have rubbed off on him a little. Maybe he would have gotten a little better of an attitude just from playing a decent, moral, virtuous, upstanding, compassionate Superman who seemed like he gave a shit about someone else for 5 seconds out of a day. But he didn't get to play that Superman. He got to play the Zack Snyder DCEU Superman, who is a terrible role model for anybody. And I guess that's... He was not made a better person by playing Superman. Yeah, well, but what false allegations? Boat Reynolds says he's just worried about a fake allegation. But what, I mean, there hasn't been a wave of false allegations. I think maybe there might have been, if I think about it, or if I look, there may have been one or two. You know, I think the allegation that was made against George Takei was eventually retracted, partially anyway. The guy said that he didn't remember everything that he said he remembered. You know, so. There have been a few allegations that turned out to not be all they were cracked up to be, but there hasn't been like an epidemic of false allegations that I'm aware of as a result of Me Too and the Weinstein effect. So I don't know exactly what Henry Cavill is worried about. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Have to stop sometime. This would go on all night, and I can't... I can't let it go on all night. But thank you all so much for joining me for this once again. If you did not get your question answered this time in the live chat, as I said at the very beginning, I very much apologize. I didn't have time to get to all the questions. I know I probably skipped a few, so if you asked a question and I didn't answer it, it's nothing personal. I just didn't see it or didn't have time to fit it in. But I thank you so much for coming, and I thank you for asking it. And if you want to ask it in a comment, or if you want to come back next time and ask it again, and hopefully I'll see it, we can talk about it then. That would be great. I want to remind everybody that in addition to doing YouTube stuff, I also am the co-host of a couple of podcasts. They are a part of the Lemmy Listen podcast family. I, along with the great Jason Harding, am the co-host of the Late Seating podcast, which is where we review classic films and decide for ourselves whether or not they deserve their reputation, whether that reputation is good or bad. The most recent episode of that is our review of The Iron Giant, which you can listen to right now. The other show is called The Ensign's Logs, and it is a comedy podcast set in the universe of Star Trek, the original series. We are low-ranking officers. We are ensigns aboard the original Captain Kirk Enterprise. We're sort of nameless, faceless red shirts, and we have our own little adventures within the under the backdrop of the classic Star Trek, the original series episodes. And the new episode of The Ensign's Logs was published just today, and it is sort of based on the classic episode Balance of Terror. We're going through the original Star Trek episodes one after the other in the order they originally aired, and sort of using them as a starting point to tell our stories. And this episode is really fun. It was a lot of fun to do. It's slightly off format for us. It's a little bit of a departure, but not really. And it came out really well, and it's really funny, and it was a lot of fun to do. So listen to the Ensign's Logs. If you like my Star Trek stuff, if you like the Trek Actually videos, give the Ensign's Logs a shot, because we've really been having fun making them, and it's one of my favorite projects that I'm involved with. And Jason, of course, is a genius and is hilarious and really carries the whole project, but I try to take up to keep up my end of things as well. I think I do an okay job, but we'll let you judge for yourself. So that's the podcast. Listen to the podcast. You can listen to them at letmelistenpodcasts.com. And also, if you enjoy this work that I do, please consider helping me to continue to do it by becoming a supporter through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron for as little as $1 a month. If you pledge $5 a month or higher, you can take advantage of some extra little perks. But one of the things that patrons get to do related to this series is, if you are a patron at any level, you can submit a question ahead of time for the next Ask Away live stream. I post a post on my Patreon feed a couple of days before each episode of Ask Away, and you can ask a question ahead of time, and I try to answer every single patron question. So if you are a patron and you have a question for Ask Away and you want to make sure that I get to it on the air, you can leave it ahead of time through Patreon, and I will answer every patron question that I get before the show. So just another extra little thing that I do to say thank you to my patrons. Oh, and someone, Janet Funk, yeah, hi Janet, says, I love the Ensign's Logs in the live chat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love the Ensign's Logs too. I'm really glad that people are listening to it. A lot of new people listened to it after I mentioned it at the end of the Not Actually Trek Actually video I did about Star Trek Voyager. I got a lot of new listeners, and that was wonderful. I'm so glad that more people are listening to it, because I really, really like it. And Jason works really hard on it. And I show up and talk into a microphone for it, so I technically work, but I don't work very hard on it. But anyway, that's it, everybody, for the show. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to those of you in the chat for being here. Thanks to everybody who was a moderator, my regular moderators. Many of you were here keeping order in the chat. I really, really appreciate you keeping things civil in the live chat, and many of you are also patrons, so thank you for that as well. Thanks to everybody for watching. I hope you found it to be a good way to spend your time, and I will be back week after next to do this again. So take care, everybody. Thanks. Bye.